Remember to subscribe so you don't miss out on more awesome content. I finally finished Final Fantasy 15, so this review is super late, but I like to savor my RPGs and enjoy the fuck out of them as long as possible. So most of my RPG reviews are going to be just like this. I'm still not done the post-game, by the way, so there's still more for me to enjoy. But anyway, Final Fantasy has received numerous reviews calling it god-awful and calling it one of the greatest Final Fantasies ever. For me, the truth is more towards the latter. The game starts out thrusting you inside Prince Noctis's shoes as him and his 3 friends go on a road trip so he can get married to his betrothed. A game like Final Fantasy usually comes with a lot of the fantasy aspect, but this time Final Fantasy 15 is grounded in mostly reality, as the first scene Noctis and his buds are pushing the car, which ran out of gas, while Florence and the Machine's cover of Stand By Me plays overhead while they're bickering, which by the way is the perfect song to this game, and I mean absolutely perfect, especially the second time you hear it. Japanese games and animation culture tend to have this unique ability to get you attached to the characters in their media that we don't see as much of in the Western genre of film and animation. We might root for our heroes, but anime tends to make us shed tears by playing towards our feelings of what the general populace likes and only dreams of about characteristics of a hero, making us feel like we're right along with them for the ride, not just watching them. This is no different with Final Fantasy 15. The dialogue between the 4 of them is what really sets this game apart. It doesn't feel forced, it doesn't feel read off, it really makes the chemistry feel unlike most other games. Even while diving in the fluid but yet simple combat system and hearing them talk and joke with each other, just creates a bond between the characters that, to me, remains the most important and amazing aspect about this game. The whole first half of the game is filled with these moments as you travel around the open world doing pretty much whatever you want, and it was just so fun to travel with my buddies taking pictures and eating at restaurants and doing stuff with them that I stayed away from the main story for quite a while. But honestly, I think that's the only way to get the best time out of Final Fantasy 15 is to enjoy the open world part of the game for as long as possible. Because about halfway through the game, it turns linear, and creating as much of an attachment as you can with the characters in the game is definitely a must-have if you want to enjoy this story to its fullest. Final Fantasy 15 has always been known for its story, so while the characters definitely shine in this game, I will say that this isn't the best laid out story compared to other Final Fantasy games, but I still think compared to your average game, it's still a pretty decent story. Most of the open world stuff pretty much leads to the straightforward part in the story, save for a few fights with the Astrals that you have along the way. Even though the combat is simple, it's extremely fun to fight these big monsters and bosses that prevail in Final Fantasy 15. Everything is bigger in Final Fantasy 15, and maybe you do get used to it later, but the first time you fight a big monster astral, it gives you this great Dragon Slayer type feeling. Warp striking around as Noctis, putting you on a different type of god level than the god you're fighting, is just something else. The story really doesn't have a main villain until the end, but I think that kind of works, although the main villain was slightly rushed story-wise with a slightly vague backstory that leaves more questions than answers. However, they are planning a DLC about the villain, so it kind of makes up for its shortcomings. But anyway, stuff like that is where Final Fantasy shortcomings come in. The supporting characters are a lot less memorable, and yes, they are, keyword, supporting characters. But for some reason, most of them feel like they're just there for a scene, and usually Final Fantasy supporting characters kind of leave more of an impact. The extended universe it set up with the Kingsglaive CG movie and the Brotherhood anime also fell short in a sense that, especially with Kingsglaive, it left some continuity issues and questions from people. The combat system, though fun, can also get a bit stale really late in the game, leaving you wanting slightly more to the combat aspect. And, like I said, the story just ends up feeling kind of dragged on or side questy for a lot of it. But, like at present, the last half of the game wraps this up in a nice bow, and the bow is even better if you've spent a hell of a lot of time with your friends enjoying the great interactions between them, enjoying Prompto's silliness and fourth wall breaking, Gladiolus' strictness to keep Noct on the right track to king, and Ignis's parental role cooking and making sure everyone's healthy and the best dialogue ever when he comes up with a new recipe.
That's it!
What's what?
I've come up with a new recipe.
Friends make life great, and they make Final Fantasy 15 even better, being the highlight of this game. I found it fun just to drive around looking at all the cool towns and places with them, listening to them talk about each different place in the game like they weren't even scripted. More than just cool towns, the dungeons were some of the best things about Final Fantasy 15 as well. The various dungeons looked spectacular, and exploring them was just as fun as they looked, and channeled my inner Indy Jones. Final Fantasy XV was a game that most people seem to either love or hate, but I think on its own, it's a great experience that's more about the story and main characters more than the gameplay or some of its shortcomings. Comparing it to other Final Fantasy games, of course, you'll come up with shortcomings, but as a whole, I enjoyed playing it, and I definitely will have more than enough time put into the game to say without a doubt that it was worth it. Let me know what you guys think about Final Fantasy XV in the comments, and make sure to subscribe and check out my other stuff right here on the screen.